When I was adding my very first product on Amazon, I ran into a bunch of fields and options that were honestly quite confusing, and I wasted a ton of time trying to figure them out. But not only that, I've learned that you always need to add your Amazon product to the Amazon platform before you purchase anything to sell, because I've seen way too many beginners buy products first, only to find out that they can't sell it, or they're not allowed to sell it on Amazon, and they end up stuck with hundreds or thousands of dollars of products that they don't know what to do with. Okay, so in order to add your product to Amazon's marketplace, you need to sign up for an Amazon seller account. You can sign up for an Amazon seller account by going to sell.amazon.com. And once you've done that, you can log into your new Amazon seller account, and on the homepage, you can click on the Add Products link here, or you can click on the menu at the top, click on Catalog, Add Products. You'll then end up on the List Your Products page. But before we move on, I want to go over how listing products on Amazon works. It's not quite like listing products on other platforms like eBay or any other e-commerce platform, where they put the seller first. On those platforms, each seller creates their own listing to sell whatever item that they have for sale. So for example, if you want to buy an Xbox, you're going to find hundreds of listings of Xboxes for sale. Whereas on Amazon, their platform is product first. So instead of seeing hundreds of Xbox listings, you see one for new consoles and another here for renewed. Everyone selling the same product adds their items to one listing and competes for sales on that same listing. So with that in mind, when you go to add your products to Amazon, you need to ask yourself, am I selling something that's already being sold on Amazon? Such as if you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, it most likely is. So you'll need to add your products to the existing product listing that's already on Amazon. Otherwise, if you're doing private label, where you're the manufacturer and you're selling your own unique branded product, then you'll have to create a new product listing. Now, both options have similar steps, but creating a new product listing is definitely more complicated. So what I'm going to do is start with creating a new product listing first. And that way, most of the steps that you'll see will already be covered for adding a product to an existing listing. All right, and back on the List Your Products page, you can see that you have several options here to choose from, which I'll cover later. But since we're going to create a new product listing for a product that's not currently sold on Amazon, we're going to choose the blank form option here. But before we click start, remember the beginning of the video, I warned you about getting stuck with products that you can't sell? Take notice down here, it says, products requiring approval and compliance references. You can't sell whatever you want on Amazon, and some products need to meet specific government compliance requirements in order for you to sell them on Amazon. Just because you see other people selling the product on Amazon doesn't mean you can, and I'll go over these two issues in the next few steps. All right, let's click on Start. Now, the first field here is the item name, and if you hover your mouse over the question mark, you can see that this field is the product title. This is the title of every listing that you see in the Amazon Marketplace, as you can see here. Now, the final version of your title needs to be keyword optimized using properly researched keywords. Keywords that are relevant and accurately describe your product. Amazon doesn't know what you're selling, so you need to accurately describe what it is here so your listing will show up in the search results. And it's very important that you do this properly so that the Amazon search algorithm can index your listing in order to get you more sales by showing your listing on the first page of the search results. And it's crucial that your listing appears on the first page. Over 70% of all online sales happens on the first page. So not doing this properly will dramatically affect your sales and Amazon success. Now, I'll go over how all of this works later on in the video, but if you're just getting started and you're creating your product listing to see if you're allowed to sell this product, or if there's any potential problems with selling this product, then you can just enter a title that generically describes what you're selling. So for example, here's a product that I'm working on, the screw-in camping tent stakes. And on this listing, you can see that it has a fully keyword optimized title. Now, I can just copy this title and paste it here, or I can just type in camping tent stakes for now. You can always change and edit this later. Okay, and once you've done that, in the product type field, it's going to automatically choose the category that it believes your product falls under. If it's not the correct category, you can click on Select Other and choose the correct one from the list. If you're not sure, just pick the closest one, or you can check on a competitor's listing by scrolling down on the product detail page and see which category they're using. Once you've done that, click Confirm. All right, and now here's where we're going to enter all of the details and information that's related to our product. You can see at the top here that we're on the first step of 5, product identity. And as you can see, the first 3 fields are already filled in since we already entered those details in the previous step. If you made a mistake, you can always click on Edit to change the product type or choose a different category from the drop-down menu here. And in the Variations option, select this option if you're selling products with different colors or sizes, for example. But in my case, I'm not. I only have one version, so I'm going to leave this unchecked. Now in the brand name field, this is very important, so pay attention. You don't want to get this wrong because it can create a bunch of problems and you won't be able to change it later. Now, if you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, you're going to enter whatever you're selling's brand name here. So if you're selling Xboxes, you would put Microsoft here. And I'll go over this in more detail when we talk about adding your product to an existing listing later on in the video. But for now, if you're doing private label, you would put your own brand name here. The thing is, if this is your first product that you're selling on Amazon and you're using your brand name for the very first time, you'll need to go through a brand approval process. And there's 2 ways to get brand approval. If you've registered your brand as a trademark, then you can get your brand approved through brand registry. But if you don't have a trademark, then you can go through the standard brand approval process. Registering a trademark actually has a ton of advantages, such as getting access to brand registry, A+ content, the Vine program to help you get your initial product reviews, and a ton more. So I highly suggest that you go that route. You can register your trademark on the USPTO website, and it only costs around $250. Now, the brand approval process itself is an entirely different topic on its own, and I have a detailed video that goes over how to do that, and I'll leave a link to that video down in the description below. Now, if for whatever reason you don't want to go through the brand approval process, then you can checkmark this option here. This product does not have a brand name. However, if you choose this option, your product will be listed as generic, and I highly discourage you from doing that. You always want to build a brand, and if you list your item as generic now and you decide to build a brand later, you won't be able to change it to your brand later. You'd have to start all over and create an entirely new product listing and lose all of your sales history and reviews. Okay, and moving on to the external product ID. This is the unique identifier for your product, and so many beginners screw this part up. Every product sold around the world has a barcode on it, and this barcode is called the UPC barcode. UPC stands for Universal Product Code, and this is what is scanned when you check out every time you go to a store like Costco or Walmart. And the UPC barcode is unique for each product. No 2 products have the same barcode, so again, if you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, there's going to be a UPC barcode already on the product, so you can enter that here. However, if you're doing private label, you're manufacturing your own products or buying generic products from a supplier, so they're not going to have a UPC barcode on them, so you'll need to buy one. But here's the thing. You need to buy your UPC barcodes directly from the GS1 website. Don't do what I see so many beginners do, and that's buying them from third-party websites to save some money. It's not worth the trouble and the risk. Official GS1 barcodes are only $30 each, and you only need to buy one. The one barcode represents and identifies this camping tent stake, no matter how many units I'm selling. Now, I also see people trying to save some money by choosing this option here. I don't have a product ID, and applying for what's called a GTIN exemption. I highly discourage you from doing that also because a GTIN exemption creates a whole bunch of problems and hassle for you. One of which is the GTIN exemption expires every 6 months, so you constantly need to renew them. Okay, so once you've purchased your UPC barcode from GS1, you can copy the UPC barcode and paste it here. When you buy your GS1 barcode, you also get the EAN version and the image versions of both barcodes as well. Choose UPC EAN from the drop-down menu and click Next. And now we're on step 2, description. The first field is the product description. This is the paragraph that appears on each product detail page, like you can see here. This is where you want to provide more information about your product, such as the features and benefits and why your product is superior to your competitors. And again, you need to also do keyword research and include the best keywords here to help you generate more sales and improve your listing rank. There's actually powerful tools to help you do this. And the tool that I use and recommend is Magnet from Helium 10. By entering a seed keyword, Magnet will pull up all of the most relevant keywords for you, like you can see here. And another powerful tool, Cerebro, will actually steal all of your competitors' keywords. If you enter some of the top sellers into Cerebro, you can find all the best keywords they're ranking for and use them in your own listing. How powerful is that? If you want to give Helium-10 a try, I have a link to a free trial as well as a coupon for a huge discount for my community. So you can save a ton of money if you decide to upgrade, and I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. All the fields that are highlighted in red or have a asterisk next to it are required. So in the meantime, you can just enter something random or generic. If you want to add more than one paragraph, you can click on Add More here. Next here is the bullet points. The bullet points is the section you see at the top of the product listing here. You can add up to 5 bullet points. So if you want to add more than just one, which I highly recommend using all 5, click Add More here. What you want to do for your bullet points is really put some thought into choosing the best 5 key benefits for your product. How is your product uniquely solving a problem that the buyer has? What is your product's competitive advantage? Don't just put something generic that doesn't help sell your product. I see a lot of sellers just putting some generic product features that all the other sellers are saying. Don't do that. Basically, a test that I use is if I can take my bullet points and place them onto a competitor's listing and they apply for their product, then that's a bad bullet point. And just like in the title, you also want to include the best keywords here. Okay, now the images section here. Here's where you're going to upload your product photos. Now, I can't stress enough how important it is to get professional photos taken. Just because you have a nice camera or a friend that has one doesn't mean they are experienced product photographers. The quality of your photos alone can determine the success of your product. And professional photos aren't that expensive and typically cost around $75 to $300 range depending on what you want done, and it'll pay off in the end if done correctly. You can find really good photographers on Fiverr.com or even look for one locally. But the thing is, everyone has high quality photos nowadays, so you need to go the extra mile. Your photos need to tell a story. Shoppers are going to primarily make their buying decision based on your photos. Think about your own buying habits. When you're shopping online, what's the first thing that you look at? Everyone looks at the photos first, and if you don't see what you like, you move on to another product. Your photos need to highlight the key benefits and features of your product and what your competitive advantages are so shoppers can see why they should buy your product over your competitors. So really put some thought into it, especially the main photo, since that's the photo that appears in the search results. The main photo needs to be attractive and capture shoppers' attention. Otherwise, your listing will just get lost in the sea of competitors. What I do is I do a search for my product and scan through the listings that show up in the first page and see which listings catch my eye. Figure out why those particular listings caught your attention. Is it the layout, the colors? Use those listings as inspiration. Now, if you don't have professional photos yet to upload, you can always upload a temporary photo for now. In fact, it doesn't even have to be a photo of the product you're selling. You just need to upload at least one image in order to continue on or for the listing to go live once you have inventory. But be aware though that if you decide not to take your own photos, that you don't inadvertently use someone else's photos. That means be careful using some random photo on Google. It might be copyrighted. And don't steal a photo from a competitor. Use common sense. Violating someone's intellectual property is a serious offense, and you can have your listing shut down, your selling privileges revoked, or worse, you can actually get sued. So don't use copyrighted material on your listing. And also take note, the photos you upload need to meet Amazon's image requirements. For example, images must be 500 pixels to 10,000 pixels on their longest side. Images must be in JPEG, TIFF, PNG, or non-animated GIF formats, and they must be clear, unpixelated, and have no jagged edges. The main image must accurately represent the product as a realistic, professional quality image and not be a placeholder. Have a pure white background. Show the product as 85% of the image. Not have text, logos, borders, color blocks, watermarks, or other graphics covering the product or in the background. And all of these requirements here and down here. Make sure you follow these guidelines, otherwise your listing will be suppressed until you resolve the issues. Now, click on product details. Okay, so from this point forward, some of the fields that you see on the next few steps may be different than the ones you're seeing when you create your own listing. The fields and field names can vary depending on the product you're selling and the category that it's in. All right, the first option here is customizations. If you hover your mouse over the question mark, we can see that this option is if you're selling a product where the buyer can create personalized and configurable products by offering buyers the ability to add text, upload an image, or select from a set of options, available for seller fulfilled products only. Now, most of us aren't doing that, so choose no. Okay, and now the model number and model name fields. These are for your own bookkeeping purposes, so you can just make something up to help you keep track of the product. I recommend using something descriptive that describes the product. For example, for the model number, tent stake, 12-inch, orange. That way, as your product line grows, you can identify what each item is by the model number. If you have different sizes, you can always add LG or SM to the end of it or something. Just use whatever method works for you. And for the model name, I just put whatever the product is. Screw in tent stake. If you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, then the manufacturer will already have a model number and a model name. It's usually on the box or on the product itself somewhere, so enter them here. And in the manufacturer field, if you're doing private label, you're the manufacturer, so put your brand name here. Otherwise, if you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, put the product's brand name here. And now in the style and materials field, you can see that they're not required, but I suggest entering something here to help with the search algorithm if it applies to your product. In my case, style doesn't apply, but in the material field, I'm going to enter stainless steel. If there's more, you can click on add more here. Color, well, that's pretty obvious. Enter the color here. Number of pieces. This is how many items the buyer will get when they purchase one unit from you. So in my case, they're getting a pack of 15 tent stakes in one unit or box, so I put 15 here. You can see that it says, enter the number of pieces within the unit being sold. For the part number, I just copy the model number. And now down here in the item dimensions, you're going to enter the size of the product itself, not the package. So for example, my pack of 15 tent stakes comes in a box, but each tent stake is only 12 inches by 4.5 inches. Now, a pro tip, you can see on the side here, it says it's displaying the recommended attributes right now. If you click on all, you can see that a few more fields popped up. Again, this can vary depending on what you're selling. In my case, you can see that this unit count section popped up. It's not required, but you can fill it in if you want. In this case, these fields aren't going to help with generating sales, but depending on what you're selling, some fields may appear that do, so you want to fill them in. So always take a look at all the available fields. So in my case, the unit count section doesn't apply, so I'm not going to fill it in. You can see it says this is for products that are consumed by volume, weight, or linear dimension. Okay, now in the next step, offer. In this step, you're going to enter all the details on how you plan to sell the product. In the first field, enter the SKU. This is the stock keeping unit. Again, this is for your own bookkeeping purposes, so if you're tracking your products by SKU, then enter it here. You can make one up if you don't already have one. You can just keep it simple and use the same thing as the model number from the previous step if you want, but this field isn't required. Quantity is how many units you have available for sale. So if I have 1,000 units to sell, then enter 1,000 here. Your price is the price you want to sell the item for on Amazon. This is the price the buyer is going to pay. Offering condition type. This is almost always going to be new unless you're selling books or other products where you're reselling used items. So choose new. List price. This is the suggested retail price from the manufacturer. So if you're selling wholesale or arbitrage products, this is what the manufacturer suggests it should be priced at. Now, if you're doing private label, you can make up the price here. I suggest setting this to the highest price you can ever imagine selling the product for. It's important that you set this at the highest price because it can affect the buy box. That's the buy button on your product detail page. And it can also affect whether or not these price badges show up or not, like these limited time deal or the strike through pricing like you can see here. I have a separate video that goes over a bunch of price hacks and how to properly set these pricing fields so you can leverage these badges as well as make sure that you don't lose the buy box, and I'll leave a link to that video down in the description below. Now, if each time you make a sale, you plan to fulfill the order yourself, choose I will ship this item myself. Otherwise, if you plan to use FBA, which stands for Fulfillment by Amazon, then choose Amazon will ship and provide customer service. Now, I highly recommend using the FBA option, and that's because by using FBA, Amazon will handle all of the order fulfillment for you. Each time you make a sale, Amazon will take care of the picking and packing, labeling, shipping and handling, returns and refunds, and even all of the customer service. All you have to do is ship your inventory to Amazon's fulfillment warehouses. And sellers who use FBA will have the Amazon Prime badge on their listing. This is the Prime logo you see on these listings here. This is where Amazon Prime members can get Amazon's free 1 and 2 day shipping. Sellers who use FBA generate far more sales than those who don't because shoppers want their purchases faster and get free shipping. Okay, and now in the item package dimensions, Enter the size and weight of the product package. So this isn't the size of the item itself like we entered in the previous step. This is the size and weight of the package the item comes in. If you're doing private label, you might not physically have a product on hand to measure and weigh it, so you can ask your supplier for this information. Okay, and now scroll up to the top and remember to check all of the attributes. And here's where a lot of beginners make a huge mistake. There's several hidden options here that can drastically improve your sales. Notice there's now a sale price field. If you want to offer your product at a lower price, you can use the sale price and set a date range for when the sale happens. When you set a sale price, your listing will get this limited time deal badge and the your price will be struck out like you can see here. These are great attention grabbers, especially during a product launch to help you gain traction. For example, you can set the actual price that you want to sell the product for here in the sale price field and set the your price higher or match it to your list price. And a pro tip, if for whatever reason your product listing won't be ready when your inventory arrives at Amazon, such as your photos aren't ready or whatever, set the offer release date to sometime in the future to postpone your listing going live. And when you're ready to go live, set the offering release date to today's date. That way your product won't appear in the marketplace with a poor quality listing and trigger the start of the honeymoon period. The honeymoon period is when Amazon helps boost your listing in the search results to help generate your initial sales. And typically it only lasts around 15 to 30 days, so you don't want to waste it. Again, I have a video that goes over these price hacks and I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Now notice this gift wrap option also appeared. I suggest always turning it on. This gives buyers the option to send your product as a gift and can improve your sales, especially if your product is something people would give as a gift. And always set the max order quantity option to something other than 0. This is a huge mistake that I see so many beginners make. Leaving it at 0 means someone can buy as many units from you as they want. Now you might be thinking, that would be a great thing. Why would I want to stop someone from doing that? Well, the problem is, I've seen this happen way too many times where a beginner would create a promotion, coupon, or a sale, and they don't set it up correctly where the buyer could only use the discount one time for one item. And a buyer would come along and use that coupon and wipe out a seller's entire inventory for pennies. So don't let this happen to you. Make sure you set this to something other than 0. And once you've done that, let's move on to the last step, safety and compliance. Okay, I'm going to mention it again. Depending on what you're selling or the category that your product is in, you're going to have different required fields here. In my case, you can see that these fields are required. In the country of origin, put where your product is manufactured or purchased. In my case, they're made in China, and it doesn't require any batteries. If your product is considered dangerous goods, you'll need to choose the applicable options here and provide additional information and documentation. If there's more than one, you can add them here by clicking Add More. Then in the last field here, if your product needs to meet any government regulations, such as California's CARB compliance, or you might see something different if you're selling a different product, you can select it here. In my case, it's not applicable. But be aware, just because you choose not applicable doesn't mean you can bypass any requirements if they are in fact required for your product. And I'll go over that in a minute when I talk about the product compliance requirements. Now again, it doesn't hurt to take a look at the hidden attributes. If there's anything there that you feel you need to enter, you can do so, but they're not required. And once you're done with this step, you can click on Submit. And that's it. You can always come back and edit your listing anytime and as often as you want. Just click on the menu, Inventory, Manage All Inventory, and click on the Edit Listing option here. Now, if there's one thing you're going to get out of this video, it's this next part, so pay close attention. Just because you completed the steps to add your product on Amazon and you didn't see any errors, it doesn't mean everything is fine and dandy. Like I mentioned earlier, if there are any restrictions or compliance requirements, you will still need to address them. Amazon's system may not have caught it right away, but it will. And when it does, you will have to go through the product approval process or provide compliance documentation before you can sell the product on Amazon. So let's talk about that now. First, Amazon has a list of prohibited products. These are products that you absolutely cannot sell on Amazon. You can see a list of them here. Also, Amazon has products and categories that require approval ahead of time in order to sell them. This is what's called gated categories. In order to sell products in these categories, you need to get ungated first. You can see a list of categories here and if they are gated or not. And just because the main category isn't gated, there might be subcategories that are. Getting ungated isn't difficult. For some categories, all you need to do is fill out a form and answer some questions and you'll get instant approval. Whereas others, you may need to submit some documentation and invoices. I'll leave a link to these pages in the description below. Now, compliance is the bigger issue. For safety, some products may also require certifications and testing like certain electronics, food, beauty supplies, toys, and baby-related products. You won't be able to sell these products without providing the proper paperwork and certifications. Usually, your supplier or manufacturer will have these certifications and test results, but if they don't, it can end up being cost prohibitive if you have to get the product tested and certified at a testing lab. So it's crucial that you find out if the product you plan to sell has any of these requirements, and if so, that you're able to get them. Thankfully, Amazon has a new compliance tool that can help you determine if there are any certifications that are required. So back on the List Your Product page, click on the Compliance Self-Assessment link here. Notice this disclaimer. If you supply products for sale on Amazon, you must comply with all applicable laws and Amazon policies for each of those products and product listings. The information on this page is provided as an informational resource only, and the user is ultimately responsible for confirming the accuracy of the information before submission. Okay, so down here, do a search for the product that you plan to sell, and the tool will show you if there are any required documentation or certifications that you'll need to provide. For example, let's say you plan on selling these outdoor LED lights. Seems pretty innocuous, right? Well, let's take a look here. You can see here, string lights is the top result. And if we click on it, you can see that this product is regulated under UL 588. And in order to sell these products on Amazon, you need to provide the following documents: test reports from an ISO 17025 accredited laboratory that show that the product complies with the regulations, standards, and requirements listed above. And make sure you click on the Dangerous Goods Compliance tab here. If the string lights have a battery, for example, you'll also need to provide all of these requirements listed here. Do you see what I mean? If you plan to sell this product and you're buying them from China or having them made by some fly-by-night manufacturer where they can't provide these test results, or the product simply doesn't comply with the UL 588 standard, then you'll end up with products that you can't sell on Amazon. And there's one more issue that can stop you from selling your product on Amazon, which I'll show you in the next step here. All right, now, what if you want to add your product to an existing listing, such as if you're doing wholesale or arbitrage? Again, navigate to the List Your Products page here, and you can choose from these other options to find the product listing. One way is to use the keywords option. Type in what your product is and then select it from the products that appear. Make sure it matches exactly. Or you can use the product ID option and enter the UPC barcode that's on the product and enter it here. The UPC barcode is usually on the package or the product itself. You can see here that if you want to sell these Xbox consoles, you need to get approval first. But this isn't always the case. Let's say you want to sell this elf skin makeup remover. It's selling well and has over 4,000 reviews, and there's a dozen other sellers selling this product. So let's try to sell them ourselves. Here's the listing here. And if we take a look at the limitations, you can see that you need to get approval to sell this brand. But also take a look here. You are not approved to list this product, and we are not currently accepting applications. Can you see now how important it is to do this first? That's why it's vital that you add your product to Amazon first before you buy anything, so that you can make sure you're allowed to sell it and not get stuck with products that you can't sell. Now, if it's an item that you can sell, like you can see here, then all you have to do is fill in the details in the offer section. All these fields should look familiar to you, and submit it. But remember, if you're doing wholesale or arbitrage, you're selling the exact same thing as everyone else, so everyone is basically competing on price. If you want to get sales, you'll need to sell it at a lower price than everyone else in order to get the buy box. You can see that this seller currently has the buy box, and they're selling it for this price here. So in the Your Price field, you'll have to set your price accordingly. And like before, choose your fulfillment option and set your prices here if you're selling in other marketplaces. And notice that you don't have to enter any more details other than what you see here. The listing owner, that's usually the brand themselves, they've already entered all the product details when they created the listing. So if you're creating your own listing, this video right over here will show you how to do proper keyword research to find the best keywords to use in your product listing and PPC campaigns to boost your sales and get your listing ranked on the first page of the search results fast.